This is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist. I hope you will plan to join me this year at Converge 19. Converge is the great conference put on by Conversant, the sponsor of this podcast, and it's in its fourth year of bringing together some of the world's leading companies for 2 days of dynamic speakers, thought-provoking breakout sessions, and opportunities to connect with like-minded professionals. You will leave the conference with new resources and best practices, allowing you to continue the hard work of driving ethics to the center of your business. In this podcast, we visit with some of the upcoming speakers for Converge 19. In this episode, I visit with Valerie Towery, and we preview her talk at Converge 19 on cross-functional collaboration by the compliance function. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, back for another episode of the Converge 19 speaker series. Today, I have with me Matt Kelly. Matt, of course, is the coolest guy in compliance, also founder and editor of Radical Compliance, and he's going to be speaking at Converge 19 on the topic, developing effective strategies for third parties and data security risk. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Tom. I am excited to be here because this is the first time I will be at the Converge conference, so I am looking forward to it.
Well, we are greatly looking forward to you being there, Matt. I was wondering if you might be able to give our audience a little taste of your presentation.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, broadly speaking, I am going to be talking about the cybersecurity end of third-party risks and the challenges that corporate compliance officers have in figuring out how to build capabilities around cybersecurity here. It's interesting because nobody would dispute that cybersecurity is a challenge among your vendors. But this is not something a lot of companies know how to do well. I know, for example, one or two very large, well-known companies that have point-blank said they don't ask their vendors about cybersecurity because they don't want to know the answer, and they couldn't handle the answer even if the vendor gave them an answer. So it's striking to me that sounds an awful lot to me like anti-corruption risk around third parties circa 2008, 2009. Heard the exact same thing. We don't ask our third parties because we couldn't do anything about it anyway, so we're going to pretend that everything's great. Of course, everything is not. So I will be looking at some of the requirements around oversight of your third parties, specifically on cybersecurity. What are some of the regulations out there that pertain to this? What are some of the enforcement actions we've seen? You can see it from the Securities and Exchange Commission. You can see it at the Federal Reserve. Even aside from regulatory issues, there are a lot of business continuity and civil litigation liability issues around your third parties that could ruin your whole day if they have a cybersecurity breach that somehow affects you. I think that we can maybe develop a maturity curve of what that would look like as you're building those capabilities. And, we can sketch out some of what you would do to audit a third party's cybersecurity. There are some tools and techniques out there I'm going to discuss. Like I said, there's that natural evolution of sort of walking, and running into this. But, Tom, to my mind, it feels an awful lot like anti-corruption and third-party risks that we all went through about a decade ago. We're in the same sort of growth phase or angst that we were then. We are here now with cybersecurity, and that's what I'm looking to get at.
Is the message that you are getting out, is it resonating with not only compliance professionals, but with the greater business community that you need to assess this risk and then take steps to actively manage it, or are we not quite there yet?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, business leaders generally are definitely aware that third parties, business partners, vendors who are providing services to them, they are a weak spot. And, if I said, would you like to experience a data breach by way of your data storage provider and they lose the data that you're storing? Obviously, business executives would say, no, that's terrible. We are aware that could happen. But then when you ask, what is the evaluation process to study these different vendors. Some companies have them, some companies don't. Some companies actually do have a very good process to evaluate a vendor's cybersecurity when they know that they have picked up a new vendor relationship. But that is the trouble. And I think that is a different sort of a challenge, that it is so easy for employees to create a new vendor relationship through the cloud. As I've said many times, you need an internet connection, a good Google search, and a P card, and you're off. And you can hire any sort of vendor to do any sort of business process for you, and you can not tell anyone at your organization. But that creates a risk. And if you don't tell anyone, then their great process to evaluate the vendor is never going to go into effect. And that brings us right back to square one. So aside from the development of evaluations of vendors, you actually still also need to drill it into employees' heads that they need to work with you rather than hire these vendors on their own or create these new relationships and not tell anyone. So there's a lot of training, there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of attention to the control environment and keeping your head in the game around cybersecurity. All of that needs to happen no matter how good or bad your third-party due diligence might be on cybersecurity. Even if it's great, if you don't know that you should turn it on, it's going to remain off, and then you're still right back where you were.
Matt, I, for one, am greatly looking forward to hearing your presentation. It's certainly one that a message that needs to get out, and the tools, strategies, and tactics you're going to discuss, I think, are going to be welcome for the rest of the compliance practitioner and audience there. We should also mention the Everything Compliance gang is getting together for our first live podcast recording. You are certainly one of the panelists on that, so I'm certainly looking forward to that, and I think everyone else is as well.
I think that will be a great time, yes.
Well, Matt, I look forward to seeing you in Denver. Thanks for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you'll plan to join me for Converge 19. It's going to be a great conference, probably one of the top conferences of this year, both in terms of educational sessions, breakout sessions, and individual moderated conversations. I know you will enjoy it. I have a few discount codes available for complimentary passes to Converge 19. So if you're interested, please email me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. You can find out more information about the conference on the show notes that accompany this podcast.